Hi, how are you? My name is Bill. This is Ghostly Stories. Roger Belt has asked me to come in tonight, like he does most Wednesdays, and like I often get sidetracked and sometimes don't get. Thank you very much for all of Roger's friends who have covered for me. And tonight we're going to be talking about Gettysburg. We're going to be talking about the haunted areas of Gettysburg, and then something that's near and dear to my heart, which is quartz energy, residual hauntings, and micropowers. And if you have followed Roger and I in any of our conversations, usually sooner or later we come up with we begin to slide into the whys. We often ask each other why this happened at the bridge. Why did that happen at the Haunted Victorian and Gardner? What is going on and in these locations different from these other locations? What is it about the center of Leominster, Massachusetts that allows residual hauntings and active hauntings to exist side by side? And so what we have here is something that Roger and I both, though we were on different sides of the line, he was gray and I was blue, and I somehow wish I was gray sometimes. But here we are. We're talking about the Civil War and the greatest battle of the Civil War, which was the Gettysburg. It's the most accurately documented. Both sides agree on nearly every detail of the battle and who was lost where. There was a complete tally taken of the lives lost and those who were traumatized by the events of Gettysburg. And so I have here a few paragraphs to try and set the scene for you, the viewer, of what was going on those days of the Gettysburg battle. And Roger, if you don't mind, I'd like to begin. The streets and fields of Gettysburg were littered with the bodies of the dead, slowly decaying in the heat of the Pennsylvania summer. The people of the town were also left with thousands of wounded to attend, and homes and businesses were quickly turned into field hospitals. Wounded men were brought into our houses and laid side by side in our halls and rooms, blue next to gray. One local woman recalled carpets were so saturated with blood as to be unfit for further use. Walls were stained, as well as books that were used as pillows. The dead also lined the streets and walkways, rotting in the summer sun. Corpses swollen to twice their original size, wrote a federal soldier. Actually burst asunder. Several humans or inhuman corpses sat upright against the fence, with arms extended in the air and faces hideous with something very like a fixed leer. Gettysburg will always be remembered as one of the greatest battles in American history. It was a turning point in the war, and it was probably not a coincidence, in the greater scheme of things at least, that the day after the battle ended also marked the fall of Vicksburg to General Grant. The war had just taken a darker turn for the Confederacy. The battle would have lingering effects on the country, not only for the armies of the Civil War, but for the Americas itself, an effect that still lingers today. The Battle of Gettysburg left a tremendous mark on a small town and on the fields where the fighting actually took place. Few are surprised to learn that many of the buildings in Gettysburg and many locations on the battlefield are now believed to be haunted. In places where so much death and destruction took place, the stories of ghosts and spirits often follow, and in Gettysburg, such spirits make themselves known more strongly than just about anywhere else. Gettysburg haunts. This is a collection of different areas of Gettysburg and the surrounding areas, acreage, miles, on which the battle was fought. There were hills, there were mountains, there were cemeteries, there was stone walls, there was forests, there were swamps. It was, and each of these places has a unique form of haunting. And we're going to look at a couple of them today. There's interesting things about the visiting the Gettysburg battlefield. You can go into just about any business in town and ask, where do I find the battlefield? And they tell you, you're standing in it. Of course, the official battlefield, which lies just outside of town, is operated today by the National Park Service, but National Parks, the entire village was the battleground. Skirmishes took place throughout the town, and when the Federals retreated on that first day of the battle, they poured into Gettysburg, fleeing the relative safety of Cemetery Hill. Many were killed here, their bodies left to wait burial in the streets of the town. The fact that these bodies were left here, their bodies left to await the burial, were left here in the July heat has given rise to one of many ghostly tales of Gettysburg. As mentioned in the first chapter of this book, I had my experience with one of the phantom smells of Baltimore Street, the lingering odor of peppermint. According to the tales, the ladies of the town were only able to walk the streets after the battle with scented handkerchiefs pressed to their faces to combat the horrible smell of death. The stories say these odors of peppermint and vanilla are still present today, and as I mentioned earlier, I certainly believe they are. I'm not an easy person to convince of these things. In addition to these former private residences, spirits on the battlefield itself abound. There are numerous reports of apparitions of phantom soldiers seen marching in formation, riding horses, and still seemingly fighting the battle from various parts of the park. These ghost haunts on the fields where Pickett's charge took place, the slopes of Little Round Top, the Peach Orchard, the wheat field, and many other places. However, the highest concentration of ghostly sightings and strange experience seem to be in an area called the Devil's Den. Now, I'm going to stop right there because this is pertinent to the subject that I would like to pursue, Roger and I, to talk about tonight. Is not because of the notorious sounding name applied to this collection of rock outcroppings and a maze of different kill zones that happened. It was an area of horrific fighting, hand to hand, turning the corner thinking you would see a friend and finding an enemy, or turning a corner thinking you were going to shoot an enemy and destroying a friend. This the Devil's Den is an area near a triangular field where electronic equipment and cameras are said to seldom work. It's the aptly named Valley of Death, where the apparitions of soldiers are frequently reported. And it is the Devil's Den itself where not only are the ghosts of slain soldiers seen, but heard also. If there is a place in Gettysburg battlefield which is more haunted than any other, there is little doubt that such a place would be the Devil's Den. Days later, the Federals would return to the Devil's Den, this time triumphant, as the battle had come to an end with a Confederate defeat. As men approached, they were stunned by the scene which greeted them. The hills and boulders were covered in blood and carnage, and the dead lay scattered about in every direction. One of the first soldiers to enter the area recalled that some of the dead men had torn and twisted leaves and grass in their agonies in their mouths filled with soil. They had literally bitten the earth. That afternoon, the rain began to fall in a heavy downpour that lasted for several hours. The dead men, who were already bloated beyond recognition, were now drenched and beginning to decay. No one knows just how long the Confederate dead remained unburied around the Devil's Den, but it could have been days or even a few weeks. And many of the bodies were said to have not been buried at all, but merely tossed in the deep crevasses between the rocks. The sheer number of supernatural incidents said to have taken place here do lend some credence to believe that the Devil's Den may be haunted. If Emmanuel Bushman was correct, then the forbidding jumble of rocks were already long haunted before the battle was even fought. If this was the case, then what sort of impact did the hundreds who suffered and died here have on the one place? A ghostly impact? I'll cite the evidence. You be the judge. The stories about the Devil's Den being haunted began not long after the battle itself. Local legends had it that two hunters had wandered onto the battlefield in one day, had gotten lost in the woods near the rocky ridge. They had completely lost their way when one of them looked up and saw a dim figure of a man standing on top of a boulder. He gestured with one hand as if pointing the way, and the hunter realized it was in that direction they needed to travel. Pause here for a moment. If they were completely lost, how did it occur to the hunter that that was what this guy on the rock was indicating? Okay, continuing on. He gestured with one hand as he pointed in the way the hunters realized it was the direction he needed to travel. He looked back to thank the man, and there was nobody there. And that was the first incident recorded after the Battle of Gettysburg of a haunting. Now, Roger and I have had many conversations. Some of our meetings here online have dealt with the presence of micropowers, quartz, running water, just places on the earth like nexus points, ley lines. And the Devil's Den is, I think, a magnificent example of a place that was already designated by the natives and the locals who had lived in that area, coexisted with this particular geographic location. And the name of Devil's Den wasn't created because of the battle. It was called by, I believe it was the Cherokee Indian of that area, or the Choctaw. I'm not really sure. Forgive me on that, please. I don't mean to promote my ignorance, but I really don't know which Native American tribe it was.
What I understand,
that was interacting with the
it was some Indian kids that were playing or something and went in there and coined that phrase, the Devil's Den. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I read that somewhere.
I have heard a different story, but you know, that's what happens when we rely on a verbal history. But I have also heard that a couple of boys were scared. The bananas were scared out of them.
Yeah. I was also going to bring up.
I'm sorry, sir.
As you said, you know, the ley lines and stuff that we talked about, which is probably running right straight through there. But also the rock formations that is there has qualities that also holds energy. So there's two reasons right there that you would have a lot of activity in that area.
Right, Roger. I don't know if you are getting this from me or if you have two different windows open. Please close one of them because I'm getting a serious echo.
Okay,
I'm only catching every second a third syllable.
Okay, mine is shut. My chat room thing is paused, so it shouldn't be bouncing back. But now I do hear something.
Okay, it's better right now. I don't know what you did, but it's better.
I do hear something in the background.
You sounded like you were right.
You hear me now? Okay.
I have everything I have is closed down. Yes, that last statement was clear.
Okay. I was talking about the Devil's Den being set on a ley line, plus the rock formation itself has qualities to hold energy. So that's two reasons why you would have a lot of activity in that area.
Right. Well, I agree with you that it was, though it was not intended. I don't think that Gettysburg created it. I think Gettysburg, the inside the parentheses of what was the battle that happened in and around this area, created another one of those. And I say this so many times, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be redundant, but it created one of those perfect storms where there was just the right receptors in the quartz and the granite. And there was just enough energy with the water that was the groundwater. And of course, there was huge psychic overload of the battle that was happening around. I can't imagine, the feeling that my friend who lived in the farm next door to me, he went blue and I went gray, and meeting him in the Devil's Den, and one of us having to kill the other. That kind of terror, not of your own death, but having to kill somebody else, and the feeling of duty that you had to kill them because they were wearing the wrong colored uniform. And I'm trying real hard not to say anything political, but it was a war of Americans fighting Americans.
Yeah.
And it was a war of neighbors fighting neighbors, and it was a war
of brothers fighting brothers,
of right and wrong, and both were right and both were wrong. I'm sorry, Roger.
I said it was a battle of brothers fighting brothers, and fathers fighting sons, and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. And here's another thing too. I mean, when the lead had stopped flying, the wounded were treated, and they weren't treated. The blue was treated on one side of the street, and the gray was treated up. They weren't. They were picked up. If they were still alive, they were brought into the houses and cared for as best they could be cared for. And the uniforms came off, and the men were revealed underneath, and the wounds were treated. And that is something that is another thing that is unique about the field, and about almost every other battlefield that the Civil War fought. I mean, when they were upright and wearing their clothes, they were dire enemies. But when the battle had been decided and the armies moved off, the wounded were cared for. They weren't arbitrarily put into a pile and killed. Because if the Confederates won the field, they treated the Union with respect. So far as medical conditions are concerned, okay, prisoners of war was treated differently, but we're talking about a very different time in the development of the human psyche. All right, if you were a prisoner of war, you were given the very minimum because feeding you took away from the war effort. What was it? Chancellorsville? There was this horrendous Confederate prisoner of war camp, and there was the off the coast of Long Island. They had ships that were prison ships, and because the conflict went on for so long, the prison ships actually rotted and sunk with all hands on board and all prisoners on board. So at that point, after they left the battlefield, then we treated each other horrendously. But during the battlefield, there was a respect that was given to both sides, by both sides. And so that's as far as I'm going to go with the politics with that. I just wanted there to be a lesson to be learned by Roger and I, because we constantly butt heads about different subjects. But on the spiritual side of the thing, the micro power associated with the Devil's Workshop, the Devil's Den, that is one of those spots that I feel actually justify exemplify, I should say, my theories of micro power. And I have a word here from somebody who.
That also would be a good reason to have a residual too, where you got all that, the type of rock that was there and everything holds the energy like that. That could be why you see, so many soldiers and stuff there over and over and over again. And they're still fighting the war.
Right. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. And at that point, in that twangy thing is back.
Sorry, I'm late.
Hey, there you are.
Your voice again. I'm sorry, Roger.
William.
Sorry, I'm late.
Summer's here.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
Hello, Summer. How are you?
Good.
This is my friend William Wallace, and he co-hosts this show with me on Wednesday night. So, anyway, we were talking about the Devil's Den in Gettysburg, and I don't know if you know anything about it or not, but it was a battlefield during the Civil War where there was a lot of death and destruction, and we were talking about how like quartz rock and all this kind of stuff will hold energy, and you can have spirits come from that. And I was just saying, that's the kind of thing that would cause a residual haunting, where you see, the same thing over and over and over again. They're still fighting the battle.
Oh, it's a repetitive memory.
Yes. Like the rock holds the memory, the quartz and everything in the rock holds the memory, and it plays like a tape recorder playing over and over.
Yeah. Like your camera does when it breaks.
Yeah. Okay, I know I interrupted you there, William. Go ahead with where you was at there.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. And Summer, this is a rather it was a rather gruesome subject. Please forgive me, and I'm very happy that you have joined us, and I'm very happy that you are curious. This is ice water, by the way. It's not a beer. It's just a beer mug. I'm very happy that you joined us on this. I'm always thrilled when curiosity is piqued and somebody is interested or curious in what Roger is doing. And the common thread I think that Roger and I have been talking about, though um, we agree that there is such a thing as a residual haunting. Um, I believe that it has something to do with the area. Roger believes it has something to do with the spirit, and we have a lot of common ground there. Now, Roger's talking about the quartz and the rock, and we're both talking about the horrendous conditions in which so many young men died. I mean, the average age of the men who were on the battlefield was 14. 15, 16. That was the age of the men. Those were the men who were healthy enough and young enough to go to battle, go to war, leave their farms. The fathers would continue with the farms, and the sons would run off to war. So when the average life expectancy was 40 years old, a 40-year-old man was an old man during the times of the Civil War, 100 years ago. Okay, so you have these young men who died in a horrendous swarm. And Gettysburg, and as I said before, the parentheses of what is Gettysburg, there was a particularly heinous battle that was performed inside, I keep calling it Devil's Workshop, but it's not called that, Devil's Den, inside the Devil's Den. And this was a particularly brutal and violent death. And it wasn't 20, it wasn't 200, it was probably about 4,000 men that died in proximity to these rocks and in proximity to this area of the battlefield. And it is one of the most prolific areas in which to get these residual hauntings documented.
There was over 55,000 deaths on both sides during that battle, which is the most, I think, of any Civil War battle that was ever fought.
I think Fredericksburg was the biggest. I mean, I may be wrong with that, but I think Fredericksburg was the biggest.
To do what now?
Battle. I think Fredericksburg was the biggest battle, the most lives lost.
Not sure about
Gettysburg
that.
Is remembered. Gettysburg is remembered because the Union, who writes the history books, Roger? The people who win, right? So Gettysburg is the most wonderful of all battles because it was the turning point in the war when the Union Army finally got off its butt and decided they had to fight a war. Okay, whereas the Confederates were fighting a war for 3 years before this.
Well, Gettysburg
is the first battle that the Union ever won.
Gettysburg is the one battle where the Union said if we don't stop them now, they're going to come into the North and we're done. Pretty much.
Well, he had to bring the war to the North because the North was just
right.
This huge army. I mean, it dwarfed anything the Confederates could put in the field. And the Union did not win Gettysburg because of any superior tactics. It was gross numbers. They just piled blue shirt after blue shirt after blue shirt. And eventually they had a wall of dead people high enough to stop the bullets, and then they started shooting back. There was no tactics in Gettysburg that the Union Army used and this is how you win a war. It was all, this is how you kill an army. Completely detest the Union. I completely detest the Union's handling of the Civil War. Absolutely.
If you have any information on any of this stuff, Summer, you want to contribute, feel free.
Nope, not that I can think of.
Okay. Anyway,
we're very happy to have you here. And
yes, we are. And you feel free to come back and join us anytime you want to. Okay.
Okay.
Basically, what we're talking about the Devil's Den is, and you probably missed the part where William was talking about when the battle was over, basically there was dead bodies everywhere. Okay, and instead of burying them, some of them they were tossed into that in between the rocks there where the devil, it's called the Devil's Den.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be a little upset too if somebody chunked me off in a hole like that and said, well, this is what we think of you. Throw you off in a hole in some rocks, and I'd be a little upset. But that's basically what we're getting at is, you have the quartz and the other qualities in the rock there, and also we talked about ley lines, which is magnetic lines that cross the earth, and where you have those lines crossing each other, it makes more of an energy field than it does in the normal part of it. So when you have the quartz rock and you have the granite and you have the ley lines and you have all, that is all like a supercharged magnetic force that gives those spirits energy to show themselves, to continue fighting the war, to do whatever it is that they want to do. I mean, it's a lot of energy that they can use. Am I not about right?
That's exactly the second. I'm sorry, Summer, please.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right.
So, you've got a lot of tragedy on both sides. You got a lot of death on both sides. And as William said, when the battle was over, when they cared for the wounded, they did not, what's the word I want to use, discriminate. Okay, they were all taken into the homes of the people there, and they were cared for as if they were all the same. Which they are. You take off the gray suit and the blue suit, they're all the same. They're people. And that's pretty much how they treated them. And I think that's one of the things about that particular battle that it decides humanity over the North or the South. They were all treated equal. They were cared for equally. So no more battle. The battle's done. I mean, over 50-something thousand people died. But the ones that were all treated as if they all came from the same side. They weren't discriminated against, and I really like that part of it. I would hope that, if we were ever in a war somewhere like that, we could do that with our enemies. You know what I mean? That everybody could be treated as if they were human beings, and not the enemy. But unfortunately, that doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't. We have a lot to learn from our forefathers in that.
Exactly.
I honestly believe that something very special about us as Americans died when that stopped. So anyway, besides the moral lessons that we both are going to, all of us are going to walk away from this with, there's the my pet theory. Okay, and that's the microcharges, the microbursts, the perfect storm, and that's what the Devil Den represents as personification, or the actually an embellished and spotlight on a particular latitude and longitude that is haunted as heck, and it's because of what is there and what happened there.
Right.
Okay? And this is the second part of something that I sent to Roger. This comes as no surprise because Roger and I have talked about this many times. But here is the theory: limestone, quartz. Was that me?
No.
Something was going buzz, buzz, buzz.
I heard that.
Are you playing Parcheesi
I'm not
again?
playing any games. It's because my phone is practically dead, and I have it on the charger, and I need to turn my light, and I put my knee on the charger, so.
Okay.
We thought we had a haunt here with us.
Yeah, there you go. So here's the theory. Okay, this is what people who are much smarter than I am have put forward. And I didn't create my theory because these people said this. I had my theory, and then I researched and found things like this. And it's on the internet, so I don't know if it's true or false. But I keep on seeing resurgences of this type of information. Theory is limestone, quartz, and or magnetite deposits can supposedly hold information such as an event in history. When the information is released, a residual haunting can occur. A residual haunting is when an event in the past gets imprinted at a certain location and is revealed in the present world. An example of this is Gettysburg's battlefield in Pennsylvania. There have been reports of tourists walking through the park and seeing reenactments of soldiers having a battle. When the tourist returns to the park office, they found out there was no reenactment scheduled for the day. In theory, what has happened is that the battle that took place at Gettysburg is imprinted in this location. Some say that because of the high energy during the battle, that is what got imprinted in this location. Some also say that because of the amount of soldiers that had lost their lives during this battle, that their spirits are not at rest. That's why this place has paranormal activity. In a residual haunting, there is no intelligence behind the haunt. There cannot be an interaction between you and the event that has taken place. I'd like to pause for just a moment because the first documented haunting in the Devil's Den after the Gettysburg was the two hunters who saw an apparition, and the apparition directed them their way to safely get home. And then the apparition faded.
Right.
That is intelligent. That is interactive. Okay. This is claiming that only residual hauntings can exist because of this perfect storm of quartz and water and terror.
No, I disagree.
And that's why this place, in a residual haunting, there is no intelligence behind the haunt. There cannot be an interaction between you and the event that has taken place. If you are able to interact with the event, the soldiers or people that are part of the event, that is an intelligent haunting. Nothing to do with the quartz. The inference is nothing to do with the quartz and the magnetite and the deposits.
And see, I disagree with that.
Like a tape recording. And
I disagree with the fact that you can't have an intelligent haunting where there's quartz and all that stuff that bring, because all spirits use that energy. So you can have a residual because of that, but you could also have an intelligent because of that. The more energy they have to manifest with, the better. So when you got a high energy place like that, you're not only going to have a residual type deal, but you're also going to have an intelligent type deal. That's the way I see it now. If I'm wrong, you correct me, but makes logical sense to me.
No, I think, Roger, we both agree. If the energy is there to continue the loop, okay,
Exactly.
this horrible men marching across the field and dying, and then tomorrow night, what are they going to do? They're going to march across the field and die. There's enough energy to keep that kind of terror and horror happening to them.
Exactly.
Then there's enough energy for something that is intelligent in that area to make itself known and to interact. And it is the presence of the energy that is the touchstone for everything that I am involved with so far as the paranormal is concerned. This is a terrible thing to admit, but I see murders. And I don't see murders while they're being planned. I see murders while they're happening because these murders, during that murderous rage, there's such a huge amount of energy released.
Yes.
It's like a flashbulb. But it's a flashbulb that lasts from the first attack till the deed is done. And then it fades. And that's what happened at Gettysburg. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to this paper like you could read it. That's what I'm saying right here.
Also, not only where the Devil's Den is and where they actually have the mounds of rock there, but also under the battlefield where so many of them died at. There's also quartz and stuff underneath the ground there. So you have a
Absolutely.
lot of area there that can produce. That's why you will probably see like troops of soldiers marching across the field, and and maybe residual battles taking place and stuff like that, because it's not just where it's on top of the ground, but it's also underneath the ground. And there was one experience that I was going
Well,
to bring up that I read about a woman who was crossing a little wooden bridge or something there, and a soldier appeared, a Confederate soldier appeared and said, "I will shoot you." Now that's an intelligent hunting. And that's basically the soldier saying, "Look,
interaction.
you need
Right,
to
because I
leave
mean,
or I'll shoot
the
you."
soldier saw her.
Sorry, my father was talking to me.
Oh, well, tell your dad I said hi.
Hello, Dad. But yeah, that
And
you can have that kind of stuff go on just about anywhere in that battlefield area. There's a lot of that stuff, a lot of the granite and the quartz and everything underneath the soil. So you
right.
have like a big, large, huge area of energy there. And I think that's why
There's
you have so many different, people seeing so many different apparitions on that battlefield.
well, there's in my pointing out the Devil's Den is only because it fits in so neatly with my theory
Yeah, yeah.
of
I'm just
microquartz. And you're right. The whole area is rife with that Precambrian volcanic granite that is marbled with quartz, and it's
Yep.
all throughout the whole area. Little round top, big round top. They're both granite outcroppings. Um,
And
the
also underneath the buildings in the town and everything, it's all over around there.
Right now you have men who are hiding behind a wall. The wall is made out of the broken up granite rock that surrounds the mountains that surround the fields. So you
Yeah.
have these granite blocks. They're broken up, and you have men hiding behind the rock. On one side of the wall is people wearing gray. On the other side of the wall, a foot and a half away, are people wearing blue. All right? They both stand up, they shoot each other, and their souls are locked. That thing which makes us not insects, but human beings. Okay? The thing that is called, and it's just a name, the soul, the awareness of these two people. They shoot each other dead, and they are locked in combat forever.
Yep.
I believe I have been in Gettysburg because I drove
And
from West Virginia to California, and I have seen quite a few apparitions like this.
Awesome.
there is
And,
a
and you're gonna
go,
come
Roger.
you're gonna come into the Ghostly Stories group, and you're gonna tell us about some of those experiences, right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have a few different stories in this exact house and old houses, so I post whether you want funny or scary or weird.
Um,
And we don't care if they're the funny ones or the scary ones or the weird ones. Just tell us about them.
and the only thing we ask is that when you're sharing something, don't share something because you think that we want to hear it. Share it because you want to say it.
Exactly. Share what you want to talk about. Don't worry about what you think everybody wants to hear.
And
It's
that's
always
pretty
better.
probably.
It's always
Here's one old
better.
guy talking to somebody. Okay, Roger, you go.
It's always better if it comes from inside of you than what you think everybody else is interested in.
Yeah. I was getting
And
ready to tell my story about one that came in my room and sat on my bed, and we had a whole conversation, but I'm like, oh geez, I'm late.
Now that's cool.
no, No, that's fine. Anyone who can interact and give us what they believe to be, and that's a key to this. Okay, I will tell you stories, ghost stories, and things that have happened to me. And Roger has shared with me things that have happened to him, and he shared with everybody on this medium things that have happened to him, and he believes them all to be absolutely true. And the moments that Roger shares with us, we, all of us who watch or view this, know that Roger believes that everything that he is saying is true. And if you feel the same way, I cannot in any way attack your bona fides. If you feel that this is true, then it is true. It is true, someone. Okay?
And
You don't have to bring in.
the one thing that you can count on is we're not going to what's the word I'm looking for here, William? We're not going to make you in any way feel like we don't believe you, because I totally do believe you, because I've experienced things myself. William has also.
What really got me interested is when one tried to reach up to me and try and when one grabbed my big toe and it woke me up for school, and I'm like, why'd you wake me up on a Saturday? I told my dad, and he's like, I didn't. I'm like, it's 7 o'clock. I didn't wake myself up.
Now, if a spirit grabs my big toe, I'm gonna come plumb out of the bed. I don't care. It could be no, oh, quit. No, I'm coming plumb out of the bed when grabs my big toe. Just saying.
Yeah.
And I have one that hangs out in my room sometimes, and I've told William about this. Um, it doesn't show itself, but I know when it's here.
Yeah.
And it's harmless. It doesn't do anything, but it will sit or stand. It kind of wants to stand in the left corner over there and watch what I'm doing. And then whenever it leaves, you feel the presence just leave, so you know it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes. It hadn't come in a while, but usually when it does, my dog gets under my desk down here by my feet and just lays there because she won't come out until it goes.
Yeah. I've had a few apparitions of my my step grandmother, and that has kind of freaked me out because she passed on in 2013, and we were all so sad, and I did a little speech, and she repeated the speech like she heard it.
Well, yeah.
Which kind of creeped me out.
We actually talked about, was it you, William, that I was talking about? I can't remember if it was me and you talking or who was talking, but we was talking about going to your own funeral. Kind of like on Frighteners when the guy
No, that wasn't me.
had Michael J. Fox take him to his funeral. But anyway, yeah, and I could see me standing there, with all the other people gathered around my casket, and be like, well, where's so-and-so at? Oh, I'm going to go hunt him,
Yeah. Like, I've read a bunch of stuff, so I read it, and a bunch of different stuff comes up because I'm a Scorpio, and it all says, we'll haunt those who did them wrong, so don't do me wrong.
Right. Very wise words, young lady.
I'm above my grade level. I'm in 4th grade. I have all A pluses and an A, so I kind of get to go ahead.
Well, we're all proud of you. Way to go. William.
And yes, sir.
One of the buildings there in Gettysburg, I remember watching a video, and they were in like a basement area or something in this building. And there was a bunch of water, and they had like planks where you could walk over it. I don't know why all the water was in there, but probably because it leaked. I guess it leaks or something. But anyway, it was like a water pit or something under there. They had planks going across it. And I remember, and I think it was Ghost Hunters. I think it was Taps that was there. But I don't even remember if they mentioned it. But when there was I think it was Steve Gonzalez and one of the other guys that was going across the planks, and it was like a tore out like opening. You know, it wasn't like a regular doorway. It was like you could tell that it had been like made in there because it was all rough around the edges. And that's where the planks go. You go across the planks and you go through that cut open doorway or whatever there into another area. And I saw a rebel soldier, and I don't remember them mentioning seeing it, but I saw it, and it was like looking through that opening. It was just standing in there. Now that and now there's also one of the buildings they used for a hospital. They did a lot of amputations, and I don't know if you remember this, but they had an open window, and they would like throw the arms and legs they cut off out the window, and it was a pile that reached almost to the window of arms and legs from these soldiers. Now, given all that, and you know that the majority of them did not survive the amputations. So that would also create, and plus you have all the stuff that we talked about. That, okay, the being wounded in battle for one. Then being drugged to this hospital and having your arm or your leg cut off and threw out a window. Would that not be enough to make you hang around and go, you know, want my leg back or want my arm back? And I'm not trying to make fun of it. I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
want to be whole again.
Yeah.
Give me back what's mine.
It reminds me of a ghost story. Give me back my golden arm. There's a Boy Scout story, and it ends with gotcha.
It reminds me of a Girl Scout story.
And, yes, I do believe, that any kind of trauma can leave an imprint. It doesn't even have to be death. It can just be trauma.
Right.
So, my son just walked in. Hi, everybody. That's Joseph.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, says Roger. Hi, Roger. Hi, Roger, says Joseph. Any kind of trauma like that, I believe, does imprint. And if you say, or as you say, rightfully say, okay, that the odds of a soldier 100 years ago surviving an amputation where there was no quality of sterilization might be a bucket of water they dip the tool in. I'm sorry, Roger, I still can't hear you.
Do you not hear me?
I can hear him. I can hear you both.
They would saw off their arms and their legs, no anesthesia, no painkiller, and they were wide awake. So they had to endure the pain of having their arms or legs cut off. Now that would automatically put you in a your body would your brain would kick in and kind of produce its own painkiller, so to speak, like put you in a dazed state where you didn't feel it so much. Am I right? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, Roger. I don't mean to.
Hello?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be laughing. I know you're talking about amputations, but I'm hearing it. And you sound sort of like R2D2 on drugs.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. It's sometimes you sound really clear, and then sometimes I can't hear anything. And I got to the point. You were talking about a pile of arms and legs that rose from the outside up to the level of the window inside. and then I lost everything, and it's.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Am I hearing you?
Can you hear me now?
I
Good.
heard you.
Okay,
I can hear you now. Don't move left to right.
I'm talking about when they
The trauma of amputation without anesthetics.
Yes, and your body automatically, your mind will put you in kind of a daze to where it nulls the pain, where you're not feeling it. You kind of go numb. You see what I'm saying? It's like your body's own painkiller.
Right.
Yes.
But still, the horror of all of that has to imprint on that area. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And as you pointed out, the majority of the people who had these amputations done, it was done without anesthesia. It was done without any kind of sterilization. It was done with a cross-contamination of blood and feces. If a man is getting his legs sawed off, there's a high probability he's going to crap his pants. And this man is off the board, and the only preparation they have for the patient is next. And they bring in the next one, and they tourniquet, and they start sawing, and they break the bone with a chisel and a hammer, and then they saw the meaty parts off. And you're right, that is a textbook trauma. And if these people survived, they have to live with the fact that they're going to have a couple inches of their leg or their arm sawed off because of gangrene every couple of years until the body just gets tired of rotting on itself.
Yep.
Okay, so yes, is that the kind of trauma that would leave some sort of a haunting? Yes. Do I believe that your soul is in your left leg? No. But I do think that if I didn't survive the process, I would go to where I was killed, and I wasn't killed on the damn battlefield. I was killed on the surgeon's table.
Exactly.
So when I think at the beginning of the story that I read, I said you go into any store and say, where's the Gettysburg battlefield? They say right here. Well, you know what? I'm an empath. Okay, I feel things. I don't talk the way a medium does. Mediums are rock stars. They can talk back and forth and have speaks conversations. I talk gooder since I got off the medications. Yeah. So these hauntings are horrible to me. I feel the horror that these people felt. I feel the lost. Okay. I feel the 16-year-old boy from Florida who marched up and down the Confederate States and finally wound up in Pennsylvania, where somebody took his shoulder out with the mini ball. Okay, I'm hearing something crashing and burning. Where and
my little brother's trying to eat Go, Eli.
Potato chips in the bowl.
No, I don't. I'm back.
Well, hi.
Hello.
Hey.
My little brother's annoying.
That's how easy it is. Give him a Nerf ball. Tell him go play.
Hello, brother.
So all these things do create, and I believe it has to do with trauma, it has to do with location, and now we've got this perfect storm with the granite that is under the battlefield. We have the addition to the horror of the things that happen in the Devil's Den. We have bits and pieces of this quartz granite used for foundations. It's used for dividing the fields up. It's the rivers and streams that ran through the area because it was productive farmland. There had to be running water. There was wells. All of these things combine to make the horror of what happened at Gettysburg a common occurrence in that area. The people who lived there must be so inert, so calloused to these things that they, in order to maintain their sanity, they just have to completely block it out. All right. Do you remember? We all know the story that I tell about. There is no monster under your bed. There is no thing in there is nothing in the closet, and yet there really is a monster under the bed. And there really is something in the closet, but we just tell ourselves no often enough that we don't see it anymore.
Exactly.
And so these people who live in Gettysburg, the day-to-day people who live in Gettysburg, must have some sort of a callus built up around the empathy of the horror that was the battlefield. So this surgeon or surgery that you're speaking of, yes, I'm absolutely positive that the type of trauma that happened there and the type of freestanding energy that is available in that on the 5 square miles that the battle happened on, I am sure that there is continual hauntings in both types.
You can imagine that in the hospital alone, how many spirits of amputees and people that died with chest wounds and all this kind of stuff. You can imagine how many spirits you're going to have there just of wounded soldiers alone, not to mention the ones on the battlefield.
Now, Summer had mentioned something earlier, that hospitals are the worst. And I can only assume that Summer is obviously sensitive. And she feels what happens.
And if Summer don't quit rubbing that eye, I'm going to come over there and tell her daddy to spank her rear. They ain't going to get well with you rubbing on it like that, okay?
I know.
Just saying.
I'm like, get all the goop out of my eye. It's embarrassing.
I have to get you a pirate patch to put over that so you keep your fingers out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get my fingers out of it, and it's also hard to ignore ghosts, because I think I am a medium, because I have repetitive conversations with people, well, not people, spirits. And people.
So, do you talk to spirits on a regular basis?
Yeah, normally about every night to try to keep me up.
Wow.
All right. Have you spoken to your parents about this?
Yeah, they say ghosts can't hurt you. They obviously have not heard any stories.
All right. Well, Summer.
My grandmother is so
Summer,
interested.
I think it's your responsibility if you want. Right. Okay. And from my meme, that's what I call my grandmother. My meme, and when I was 3 years old, we used to take water, pour it on a blanket, and push it around with our mind. My meme was a woods witch. Okay, and she taught me so many things, and it was my involvement with my meme that caused my father to make sure that we were estranged from each other for about 7 years of my life, during the time that she would have taught me what she knew. And I never took the effort to reconnect with my meme, and I regret that very much. Now, the reason I'm asking you to talk to your parents about it is they obviously know that you're curious, so you wouldn't have been allowed to, or encouraged to join Roger and I on this show. So I'm going to ask you something that's very, very important. If you can get your parents to assist you in finding some religious or spiritual guidance in this, and actually, I'm going to put it differently. Some spiritual or religious guidance in this, okay? Or if your parents will allow you to speak with Roger and the people that Roger knows to help you, not only to develop your gift, but to learn about how to protect yourself from the spirits that you are interacting with. And I think that would be immensely important to you. Because even though your parents, and I don't want to contradict your parents, but I think that Roger will be able to speak to your parents in a more direct way, but I'm going to tell you, sometimes spirits can get inside your head and they can hurt you, and you should be prepared for that, okay? Now, honey, I'm not trying to say anything bad about your parents. Your parents know better than I know. I know
Also,
okay,
you can learn how to keep them.
We have a person who we both mutually respect.
Well, I think that when you think
Right.
of them
You know,
and you let them get to you, it makes them stronger. And there's one that says he's under my bed, and I just think of knitting.
You can learn to control the time that you allow them in. Uh, if you don't want to,
right?
if you don't want them to bother you or you don't want to talk to them, you can learn how to control that time and tell them, no, not right now. This is my time. You know, and
Right.
be able to, to talk to them if you want to, but and if you don't want to, you can keep them at bay, so to speak.
There's one that follows me to school, but it's a little
You
puppy
control
dog,
your
so
life, Summer.
that's it. And I tell them not at school time, and they sort of respect that.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You can give them a time, and and you can tell them what times they're not allowed to bother you, and that's pretty much how you deal with it. And if they bother you while you're trying to sleep, you can stop that. You can tell them, look, this is my time. I got to sleep. I got to rest. Uh, you
I
can't
gotta
bother me
rest for my
while I'm at
test.
school. Stuff like that. And the majority of them will respect that. I mean, they're people too, or they were people. So a lot of them have the same respect that people do. Every now and then you'll run across an ornery one that won't, but you can still put them in their place.
Yeah, but they
So,
ain't gonna
Summer,
like it.
in short, get in touch with Roger with your, right? Well, you get in touch with Roger, okay, when you're not on the show, where you can take and talk about the things that are happening in your day-to-day life. This is not the forum for that, okay, honey? Get your parents involved in this. Let them know that you're going with Roger. Roger will bridge the gap between your parents who say, yeah, well, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Roger knows it's real. I know it's real. You know it's real. So there's a step that has to be taken. Okay, and once that step is taken, then you can begin to develop control over your own life. And as Roger has said, you have uh, you have times where you say this is okay and I'll talk to you, and this is not okay and I won't talk to you. And there are subjects that you do not broach. There are things that you have control. It is absolutely your life. And Roger has both a religious and spiritual background that can help you with these things. And the very first thing and the very best thing that Roger brings to the game is that he is a common sense, no nonsense uh, person who has been involved in this for decades. And experience is there's no substitute for experience, darling. So please get in touch with Roger after the show, which is about to wrap up anyway.
Well, her and
But
Grandma are on
get in
my
touch with
on my
Roger.
page,
Get in
and
touch with parents.
so I'm sure we'll be talking off and on. And we're running. We're 7:07, so we're about right because we got started a little bit late. Um,
Okay.
Everybody listening in the chat over there, thanks for coming. Summer, thanks for coming. We enjoyed having you. William, thank you, sir. You did a wonderful job.
Roger,
And
I want to apologize again for last week. Things happened, and well, things happened. And I am so happy that you had somebody step up and take care of that.
things happen, and I understand. And anyway, we will be back Friday night with another ghostly story, and I don't know what that's going to be just yet, but I'm sure it'll be posted here soon. And my friend James Clumperins is my co-host on Friday night, and if you're around, Summer, you can meet him. Um, I hope everybody got the new links because I had to redo the thing here, and that's happened before. It's not nothing new. We've had to do this before. But anyway, I tried to get it out quick as I could to let everybody know where to go. And Meg was over there, and Mary was over there, and I don't know who else is over there. Let me see who's over here. Who we got over here? We got Meg and Mary. Ha 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 ha. Oh.
I can't see.
Yeah, Roger doesn't share the chat room.
I try not. I try to focus more on the show, so I'm not in the chat room a lot. But anyway, I appreciate everybody that's over there. As I said, we'll be back on Friday night. We'll have another story and some interesting conversation for everybody. Monday night, the 14th, Just Paranormal will be on with me. And these guys do some awesome videos. If you haven't seen them, you ought to check some of them out over on YouTube. They're pretty cool. But anyway, we're going to shut this down. I appreciate everybody being here. I got to find my button here. So I'll say fare thee well, au revoir, and arrivederci and all that. And we'll see you guys Friday night, and girls. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good night,
night.
Roger. Good night, Summer.